Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Leading Yourself podcast. Today, we're going to be diving into a topic that I think everyone has experienced at one point, and that is failing to achieve a goal. Whether it's a personal ambition, a professional target, or something in between, we've all faced that crashing feeling when things don't go as planned. Today, we're going to explore different actionable steps to help you bounce back stronger than ever. So grab your notebook and let's get started. Welcome to the Leading Yourself podcast. This is your host, Carolina de Arriba. I'm an HR professional, health and fitness coach, wife, mom, and above all things, a goal-getter. In this podcast, we're going to be digging into all things leadership, professional and career development, habits, and relationships. This is a podcast for those who want to become the best version of themselves. Those who have big dreams and are willing to embrace the journey and put in the work to achieve them. My goal is to share with you the tools, tips, and tricks to help you in your journey. So let's dig into today's episode. Let's talk about how to turn setbacks into comebacks. And let me start by sharing a little bit of context to today's episode. But recently, I found myself failing to achieve an important goal that I had set for myself. And if you have ever failed to achieve an important goal, you know how hard it can be to overcome failure and to get back on track. The good news, what I've learned over the years, is that with a little practice, you can turn failures into positive experiences that will teach you a lot about yourself and ultimately help you make progress. And I needed that refresher. So I thought, you know what, as I went through all of this myself, maybe it's a good idea to share it with others just in case you, like me, are in this situation where you are struggling to overcome failure after not achieving maybe an important goal. What I have learned over the years is that learning from past mistakes and overcome them, it's a transformative experience. However, to get there, you need to understand exactly what got you off track. And most importantly, you need to take action. So today I want to share with you different strategies that can help you bounce back after having missed a goal that maybe is got you now stuck into the setback. And I hope that some of these things that I'm going to share with you help you achieve a stronger comeback. That's my goal for today. So let's get started. The first thing is it's important to acknowledge your failures. That for me is the first step in bouncing back. It's just to acknowledge your failures. It's tempting to brush off failure or deny it. Doing so only prolongs the pain and makes it harder to move forward. You know, accepting failure allows you to confront any feelings of shame or anger or sadness or disappointment that you might be experiencing. And remember, the real failure is in quitting altogether. That is my definition of failure. And maybe I should have started there, right? Not accomplishing a goal is not failure. Failure is quitting altogether. And if you are going through a process of assimilating what happened and understand what got you off track, and you're doing some of the things that I'm sharing with you today, you're just trying. And failure is part of the journey to success. A lot of times we believe that success is a straight path, that we're going to get from here to there in a straight line, and it's going to be smooth, and there's not going to be any setbacks or bumps along the way. And that is not the reality. the route to success is bumpy and it can be sometimes hard, right? But ultimately, you will get there if you don't give up. The only time that you have guarantee not getting to the finish line or not achieving success is if you quit. Okay, after that sidetrack, we were saying that the first step in bouncing back is to acknowledge your failures. And as I said, it can be tempting, but it's important to acknowledge them so we can confront any feelings that not having achieved that goal, it's causing in ourselves. Next, it's crucial to take responsibility for our failures. Understand that you are the key player in both your successes and your setbacks. Can be the difference maker here. It's easy to blame external factors, but owning your part in the failure really empowers you to take control of your future. This mindset shift is really essential to create that positive change. You will never achieve your life goals if you expect others to save you. It's important to take responsibility for our mistakes, for our failures, for our feelings, as well as for our successes. So we can gain control over our lives and design the life that we want. And I'm going to butcher this quote that says there's no better time to plant a tree than now. Creating your future starts today. You might be in a bad place currently, but it might not be your fault because, let's face it, life is sometimes unfair. However, you're the only person responsible for turning things around. Finding excuses will never help you in moving forward. Taking responsibility is a stepping stone so you can fix whatever problem is there and you can bounce back even stronger. Okay, the next one is to take time to reflect on what went wrong. Was your goal too ambitious? Did you not stick to your plan? Did you underestimate the effort that it would be required? This last one, a lot of times, is the one that hits me hard or that comes up more frequently. I guess there's two. One, I set a goal that was too ambitious, or two, I underestimated the effort that would be required. But just taking time in reflecting on these questions can help you identify the root cause of the failure. It might be tough sometimes to face the answers, but this introspection is crucial for growth. Maybe you set unrealistic deadlines or you didn't account for potential obstacles. Understanding what those factors are can help you to plan better next time and build that skill, right? It's an important skill to have in life, I think, because otherwise we're just constantly setting ourselves for disappointment. But the only way you can perfection your ability to estimate how long a goal is going to take to achieve or how much effort is it going to take is by practicing. That's why I say after failing to achieve a goal, it's so important to pause and reflect on what happened and what went wrong. Another question you can ask yourself. So we said, did you fail to achieve your goals because your deadlines were too tight? Was it because you didn't stick to your plan? Did you fail to make new habits stick? Did you underestimate the workload, or did you overestimate your capacities? Did you burn yourself off? Those are some questions that you can ask yourself as you're reflecting after you missed a goal or you fail. I would say you fall. You haven't failed until you quit. Okay, number 4 is to acknowledge what went right. It's just as important to acknowledge what went right as it is to acknowledge what went wrong, right? Focusing solely on the negatives can be overwhelming and really demotivating. And here's the thing, a lot of us tend to do that. When something goes wrong, when we don't hit a goal, we always go and see the glass half empty. We only focus on all the things that went wrong, all the things that we could have done or we should have done. And shooting yourself is not going to make things any better. Totally the opposite. It's just going to leave you more demotivated, right? So we want to have a balanced reflection here and focus both on the negatives, but also the positives. And recognizing your strengths and the positive aspects of your effort, you can build confidence and you can build self-compassion. This balance will boost your self-esteem and keep you motivated, which is what you need to get up and keep going with pursuing your goals. Number 5, we're getting into one of my favorite things to talk about, which is habits. And step number 5 is to identify habits that you need to break. Habits play such a significant role in our success or our failure. And identifying the bad habits that contributed to your failure is so important. For example, did procrastination get the best of you? Were you too distracted by social media? Pointing these habits is the first step in breaking them and setting yourself for success. Which leads me to the next step, which is reschedule your new habits. Once you've identified the habits to break, then it's time to reschedule your new habits. Sometimes it's not about the habit itself, but when you try to implement it. Maybe waking up early to exercise didn't work because you're not a morning person. Try different times and find what fits for your routine best. And this applies for any kind of habits, right? If there is something my past failures have taught me, is that sometimes rescheduling my habits is all that I needed to stick to them. You have probably already identified the habits that you need to follow to achieve your goals. And at this point, you might reflect on, do I need to change any of them? But I want you to be completely honest with yourself. Is it that you really need to change the habits, or is it that you just need to stick to the habits that you said or you had identified as the ones that you needed to succeed? And a lot of times what I find when I talk to people that I mentor or I coach, and sometimes in myself, is more the latter, right? It's not that we fail to identify the right habits. That typically is not what's going on. The problem is that we didn't stick to them consistently. So one thing that I find very helpful, again, is finding a more convenient time for your new habits that can help you make it easier to follow them. And if you are serious about achieving your goals, you should consider planning the habits that support them first thing in the morning. That would be my tip for you. I think, for me personally at least, is what has worked best. That really has helped me to stick to them no matter how busy my day goes. See, in the morning when we wake up, we have a plan on how the day is going to go. You might even have an agenda for the day. And you plan based on things going as planned. But let's be honest, how many times they go as planned? There's always curveballs that are sent our way. So for me, that's why my morning routine is so important. And I packed my morning routine with habits that I have identified can help me achieve the goals that I have for myself. Another thing that can be helpful is using a habit tracker. That can be an incredibly effective way to help you stick to your goals. It helps you to stay accountable. It helps you to visualize your progress, whether it's a digital app. Now there's so many apps out there. My only recommendation there, if you're going to use an app, is stick to one. Don't bounce from one app to another. Just stick to one and use only one. Otherwise, it can become noise and it can become a distraction. Or old school, simply use a notebook. But tracking your habits allows you to see patterns and make adjustments as needed. And we've already talked about this. Consistency is key. And that habit tracker can keep you on course. Okay, the next thing to do to bounce back after failing in achieving a goal is to practice gratitude and be kind to yourself. I think these are essential. And I know that if you've been following me over the years, you know that I always have to bring the gratitude card in because I'm such a believer on the power of gratitude. Failure can bring out our hardest inner critic. It does for me every time. I am a very ambitious person. I'm a very goal-oriented person, all in the best sense of the definition of those words. And when I fail to achieve a goal, it hurts. And automatically, I become my hardest critic. And I start to beat myself up on why did I fail? What did I do wrong? And I blame myself for not achieving the goal. See, there's people that blame external factors. I'm the opposite. My default is to blame myself. And I always have a role to play. But sometimes I'm too harsh on myself. And here's where gratitude and kindness are so critical for me. And if you can relate, I'm sure it will be for you. Treat yourself with some compassion, with the same compassion that you would offer a friend. We're so much harder on ourselves than we are on others sometimes, or most of the times in my case. And then gratitude helps to shift our focus from what's lacking to what's abundant in our life. And that can foster this positive mindset. And that is the piece that has been so life-changing for me. Okay, after all of this, what you want to do is to set new goals. After reflecting, after recalibrating, it is time to set new goals. Use the lessons that you've learned from all these past failures to create a more achievable and a more realistic goal. You can use the SMARTER criteria or the SMART criteria and set goals that, again, are more realistic, because maybe the reason why you didn't achieve the goal the previous time is because it was too ambitious, right? So recalibrate yourself and try to set a goal that excites you, but it's still realistic. And I would say as a next step, because if you're like me, you have big dreams that translate into big goals. And it's hard to be realistic with big goals. They might be realistic. The piece that maybe we are missing, and that's why I love to use the SMARTER methodology or approach, is the time bounded. Because in my mind, I should achieve that goal in a much shorter period of time. We talked about this earlier, right? The whole estimating how long is it going to take. So one thing that is really helpful for me, and this is the next step after you have reflect, recalibrate, and set new goals, is to set milestones. Breaking down your goals into smaller milestones creates, one, sense of urgency, but also makes the journey less daunting. Each milestone represents progress and keeps you motivated. Set tight deadlines for these mini goals so you can maintain the momentum and the accountability. And once you have that, once you have your new goals and you have your milestones, all as a result of all the reflection that you've done before, it's time to tweak your environment. Sometimes our environments can hinder our progress. So make adjustments to create a space that supports your new habits. Remove distractions that can be holding you back, and add cues that encourages the positive behaviors that you know you need to put in place to help you achieve your goals. For example, if I want to read more, I would keep my book within easy reach, and I would limit my TV time by maybe putting the remote control away or in a place that is inconvenient. That's what I'm talking about when I say tweak your environment. Another thing that I find very helpful is to make progress every day. To make progress no matter how small, right? Progress, no matter how small, it's still progress. That's something that has been hard for me over the years. And now that I have comprehended that through experience, I'm like, gosh, why didn't I understood this earlier? Progress, no matter how small, is still progress. Committing to making small improvements every day. That's why as part of my morning routine, I set intentions for the day. And if I'm working towards a big goal, I ask myself, what am I going to do today to get me closer to that goal? This approach reduces overwhelm. It helps build the habit consistency. It helps keep your goal top of mind. And over time, all these small steps that you take every single day, obviously are going to be tiny steps, right? Because in one day, you can't make that significant of a progress if you have a big goal. But over time, the small steps accumulate into significant achievements. It's like the compound effect. It's the 1% better every day rule, right? If you become better 1% every day, imagine where you're going to be a year later. The same is with goals. If you make a tiny little progress every day, it all adds up. And at the end of the year, you're going to be so far ahead. Okay, the next one is one that for me is very important, is staying inspired for the long-term success and finding new ways to stay inspiring. And that can be surrounding yourself with source of motivation. For me, that is the books that I read, the podcasts that I listen to. Maybe it's the questions that I ask myself when I'm journaling. Maybe it's the group of people that I surround myself with. But find what inspires you and make it part of your daily routine so you can keep that motivation high. And for me, that is also part of my morning routine. I always have some time of personal development. And I'm picking the books and the podcasts and the YouTube videos and the things that I'm consuming that keeps me motivated and keeps me inspired. And then last but not least, make time for self-care. See, burnout is a real threat to achieving your goals. So ensure that you're taking care of your physical and your mental well-being. And this includes rest. This is one that I struggle with. I'm always go, and I struggle to find time to slow down and rest. But rest, relaxation, activities that recharge you. Self-care isn't a luxury. It's a necessity if you want sustained success. And let me clarify. When I say time for self-care, I'm not talking about a bubble bath, right? Which is the image a lot of people have when they hear the word self-care. It is what helps you recharge. And that can be different for you than it can be for me. For me, for example, reading a book or listening to a podcast it's something that recharges me. For some people, they see that as a chore, as work, right? So you need to find what helps you recharge. Okay, today was a packed episode. We cover a lot in a short period of time. So I want to kind of wrap up and share some final thoughts. And I want to start by saying that overcoming failure is a challenging but transformative experience. When you acknowledge your failures or your faults, I would say, because remember, we said real failure is quitting altogether. So if you're not quitting, you're not failing. You might have not achieved a goal. And that doesn't mean that you failed. That just means that you're trying, and that if you acknowledge that you missed that goal, if you take responsibility for it, You reflect on what went wrong and acknowledge what went right. And you identify what are the habits that you need to break. You reschedule your new habits. Maybe even use a habit tracker to help you stick to those habits. If you consistently practice gratitude and you're kind to yourself, and after reflecting and recalibrating, you set new goals and new milestones, and you make little tweaks to your environment and focus on progress. No matter how small, but progress every day. And along the way, you find ways to stay inspired and you make time for self-care. You can turn setbacks into powerful comebacks. Remember, failure is not the end. It's just a stepping stone on your path to success. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Leading Yourself podcast this week. If you found this episode helpful, please, I'm begging you, share it with someone who might need it. And until next time, keep striving, keep growing, and keep bouncing back. Okay, my friend, that's all I've got for you today. But before you go, 2 quick reminders. Number 1, if we're not already friends on Instagram, let's get connected. You can find me as Leading Yourself Podcast. Number 2, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am incredibly grateful that you're in this journey with me. I want to leave you with one last thought. I want to remind you that you're destined for more and that every step that you take brings you closer to becoming that best version of yourself. Embrace each day as a chance to learn, grow, and chase your dreams. The world needs you to shine brightly, so go out and show up fully and authentically. Take care, and I'll see you next time.